Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is Daily Drop number 199. On tonight's show, we're going to discuss Victoria's Secret and the sale that never was to the Sycamore partners. Before COVID-19 popped up on the scene, the Sycamore partners were set to purchase Victoria's Secret from L Brands for a mere $525 million. Once that purchase went through or was going to go through, part of the deal was Les Wexner would have to step down. Well, now that deal has fizzled in the wake of COVID-19, but the good news is Les Wexner is still stepping down and is still no longer going to be the CEO. So that's definitely the good news. But from a financial point of view, this is terrible news for everybody who owns share in Victoria's Secret, because stuff like this sort of volatility within the marketplace, for people who own the stock, is just terrible, terrible news. And its performance, the stock's performance on Wall Street, certainly reflects the situation that is unfolding. So let's jump into an article from the Columbus Business First, and let's see what they have to say about the sale that never was. Headline: L Brands calls off Victoria's Secret sale, plans to spin off brand instead. This article was authored by Tristan Navera. The sale of Victoria's Secret is officially off. L Brands Incorporated announced Monday afternoon it had reached an agreement with New York-based private equity firm Sycamore Partners, LLC, to cancel the sale of a 55% stake in the lingerie brand. And, you really can't blame Sycamore at this point. Brick and mortar retail is getting completely crushed right now, and it was going to be a thing of the past anyway. But you add the fact that COVID-19 has completely decimated those sorts of businesses, and I highly doubt a curbside business for Victoria's Secret would ever even be plausible as a business model, right? With all of the other options where you can just order that sort of thing from online outlets, why would anyone even bother going into a brick and mortar Victoria's Secret at this point? I don't understand it. I thought it was a bad idea for Sycamore in the first place, but this is their business model. This is what they do. They buy these retailers, and when most people were running from the hills from brick and mortar, well, Sycamore was buying more of it. So it's interesting to see this deal fall apart. There's no doubt about it, but what can you expect considering the climate right now that we find ourselves in, especially for the brick and mortar store quadrant? It's bad news. It's D-Day for these people. Absolute existential decimation is going on for these sort of brick and mortar stores. And I don't see how they could ever recover. And their stock reflects that at this point, unfortunately. Sycamore Partners had agreed to buy a majority stake in Victoria's Secret for $525 million in February. Now remember, there was all sorts of estimates that price would have been in the billions, but somehow Sycamore was able to get that price tag to $525 million in February. Now, I don't even think they're going to be able to get that much going forward, whoever they spin this off to, because like I was just talking about with COVID-19 creeping up on the scene the way it did, it's going to be really hard for them to get this sort of deal again, considering the climate we find ourselves in. But last month, Sycamore announced its intention to back away from the deal, arguing L Brands' efforts to mitigate the coronavirus pandemic had damaged the value of the brand for the long term. And, look, they're not wrong, right? They are not wrong. At the end of the day, a group like Sycamore Partners, their goal is to maximize their investments and to make as much money as possible for their investors. We can like that or not, but the fact remains that is what their job is, and that's what they do. So I really believe that it is going to be just really difficult for L Brands to be able to sell this off and get the value that they should get at this point. So I really think that L Brands should be ready to take it in the pants. The company also said that one key part of the planned sale will continue. L Brand's founder and CEO, Les Wexner, still plans to retire as part of the previously announced leadership transition. He'll be replaced as CEO by Andrew Meslow and as chairman of the board by Sarah Nash. The leadership changes are effective as of the company's shareholder meeting, which will take place virtually on May 14th. And that is good news, right? It's good to know that Wexner isn't trying to weasel his way to stay on the board or to stay involved here and try and ride this out in his position. He understands what's coming down the pipe, and he understands that the pressure is just starting to get turned up on him. You look all over the place now, and people are starting to ask questions about Les Wexner. It's not just, from the dark corners of the internet or just a content creator or two anymore. But no, you're starting to have a lot of people ask a lot of questions about Les Wexner, his relationship to Jeffrey Epstein, and more importantly, what role Wexner played in this whole entire organization. Now, we've been on record here on the podcast since the beginning talking about this. We're going all the way back to August, talking about how Les Wexner was very much involved in the leadership structure of this whole entire operation, in my opinion. That is where the evidence leads us. So how Wexner has escaped scrutiny up to this point, I mean real scrutiny by the legacy media, I don't know how they can look themselves in the mirror, these legacy media journalists who supposedly are so worried about the survivors in this case, and not doggedly chase down Les Wexner and his role within this organization. In a statement, L Brand said it would continue to prepare Victoria's Secret to spin off as a private, standalone company. L Brand CFO Stuart Bergdorfer has also been named interim CEO of Victoria's Secret in a dual role, reporting to Nash. And even, again, when I talk about volatility within the boardroom and within a company, this is what I mean. Shareholders will completely and utterly abandon ship when they see stuff like this. This stock was already on shaky ground to begin with, considering all of the upheaval around it with Jeffrey Epstein, Wexner leaving, etc., etc. And now you add this, a sale that never happened, to the ledger. You add this to the dossier. Oh boy, it is bad. It shakes the confidence of investors, and you're not going to see people rally around this stock, even though the price is astronomically small at this point. We're talking at close today, it was like $10.90. I mean, it was up at one point over $53 a share. Now this stock it's a bargain bin stock at this point, but there's no value there. It's like walking into Walmart and they have the bargain bin full of movies and finding an old movie and nostalgia grabs you for a second and you look at it and you say, oh wow, I remember this movie, maybe I should buy it. And then you remember to yourself, well, what's the point? There's no value there. I could just watch it on Netflix or on demand or whatever. And that's the same with this stock, this Victoria's Secret stock at this point. Back in the day when this brand was booming, I mean, imagine $10.90, talk about steal of a lifetime, right? But now, fast forward to today, and it's a bargain bin garbage stock. Our board believes that it is in the best interest of the company, our stockholders, and our associates to focus our efforts entirely on navigating this environment to address those challenges and positioning our brand for success rather than engaging in costly and distracting litigation to force a partnership with Sycamore, Nash said in a statement. And there's no doubt that Sycamore is ready to go to the mattresses. We've seen it numerous times with them. They're very aggressive as an investment group, and they will resort to litigation, and they will try and break you within the court system. So I think it's smart on L Brand's part to enter into this negotiation and this breakup here, rather than having it forced by the court with just tons of legal fees and litigation numbers starting to mount. In a situation like this, when you're not sitting on a pile of cash as it is, it doesn't make sense to the stockholders for you to waste money in some sort of litigation with Sycamore when you can easily just negotiate a way out of the deal, considering Sycamore wanted out, and find somebody else to buy the brand. Now, again, I can understand the other side of the argument from L Brands and from Victoria's Secret, because they're not going to be able to get $525 million this next time around, in my opinion. I'd say at least $100 million less than that going forward. That would be my estimate and my forecast for the stock and the company. The company said it would provide further guidance on how it would move forward with Victoria's Secret on a May 21st earnings call. In the meantime, it says it will go forward with a plan to be centered on Bath & Body Works, which has been its faster growing brand. And that makes sense, right? Because we've seen a turn from lingerie outlets like Victoria's Secret and a pivot to other ways to purchase that sort of clothing. And I'm of the mind that it's not so much that people are becoming more body conscientious and stuff like that. While that plays a part, I think it's more of a convenience issue. It's much easier for you to order this kind of stuff online and have it shipped directly to your house while you're out, working or whatever you might be doing, than having to take the time to go to a brick and mortar shop, to go to Victoria's Secret specifically to buy their stuff. They don't really have that enticing line that's going to get people out of their seats into the malls, into their brick and mortar shops to spend money. They don't have that line anymore. They don't have some creative way to corner the market like they used to. There's too much competition now, and they're getting caught up in that and stampeded. We are implementing significant cost reduction actions and performance improvements at Victoria's Secret while continuing to drive strong growth at Bath & Body Works, Nash said. And again, Bath & Body Works has been profitable for them. There's no doubt about it. That's been a very profitable brand for L Brands, and it continues to be that for now. Again, I have zero confidence in the brick and mortar sector, and as far as investments go, if I was making these sorts of investments and these sorts of decisions from these investment firms that like Sycamore, there's zero chance I would be in the retail business. But again, that's why they have millions and millions of dollars, and I don't, I guess. The deal had been announced February 20th last month. Sycamore told the Columbus retail giant it intended to back out of the sale, citing actions to mitigate the coronavirus pandemic that it said had damaged the brand. It also filed in the Delaware Court of Chancery to certify the termination as valid. In response, L Brand said in its own filing that the move was merely a case of buyer's remorse. It had initially signaled a plan to move ahead with the same as expected. And we covered that when that was breaking as well. We talked about that a little bit. And I thought that we'd see these guys come to an agreement, because in this climate, it doesn't benefit either side to get involved in a long-tracted piece of litigation where both sides are just blowing money at a crazy rate when it's really not needed. Sycamore really didn't want the brand after they saw what happened, and L Brands and Victoria's Secret couldn't afford the litigation. So what you have there are two sides that you can definitely find some middle ground with, and that's what they did here. Though the announcement tanked L Brands shares on Wall Street, the move didn't surprise analysts. L Brands has closed all Victoria's Secret stores without immediate plans of when to reopen them. It has furloughed employees and not paid rent on stores, moves in line with other retailers at the outset of the pandemic. While Bath & Body Works has begun to reopen some locations, there has been no timeline for when Victoria's Secret will follow suit. The company has removed any financial projections for the year. That's pretty ominous stuff right there for me, folks. Now, I don't even know, and I am skeptical if Victoria's Secret's even going to open its brick and mortar shops ever again under the L Brands banner. It doesn't seem like a risk that is worth taking for them. In my opinion, I think it would be better for them to sit on it, wait, try and move some units via online sales, and see what the terrain is going forward, because this is an ominous place to be for any sort of retailer right now. Never mind a retailer that has the stench of Jeffrey Epstein still hanging over it, even though Wexner is gone. As part of the proposed agreement, L Brands and Sycamore had planned to gradually untangle the two companies and their workforce of 88,900. They both rely on L Brand's supply chain company, Mass Global, and share significant back-office infrastructure. As part of the termination agreement, Sycamore Partners and L Brands settled the pending litigation and mutually released all claims. Neither party will pay the other a termination fee or other consideration. Company stock closed at $12.04 a share Monday, but plunged nearly 11% in aftermarket trading following the news. And there's the shockwave that I was talking about. Stocks, for those who follow the market, everybody knows that stocks are very volatile in situations of upheaval and when there is questions around the company and the vision moving forward. And it's no different in a case like this. And then you amplify and magnify that 10 times over when you're dealing with something like a pandemic. So you see where Sycamore is at with this, and you see why they got cold feet and backed out. And for Victoria's Secret and L Brands, it's not the outcome they were looking for, but I guess a decision loss is better than a knockout loss at this point, because that's what it is. It's still a loss, but it's not a knockout loss where they're losing a bunch of money trying to litigate this, because they wouldn't have won anyway. Sycamore definitely would have won that lawsuit, but it would have been drawn out and very costly. So here's where we're at with Victoria's Secret and L Brands and the sale to Sycamore as of now. The one good thing that comes out of this still, no matter what, is that piece of slime, Les Wexner, is not involved, and he's not at the head of Victoria's Secrets or L Brand anymore. And at the end of the day, that was phase one of dealing with Les Wexner, right? Getting him off that board, getting him away from L Brand, getting him away from all of those people that he's usually hanging around with in those boardrooms in a professional setting. Mind you, what he does in his personal life, we really have no say over that, but professionally putting the pressure on to make sure Wexner was forced out here, and believe me, that's what happened. He didn't step down willingly. This was a man who created this company from scratch and built it up, and full of hubris, right? And full of ego. Do you really think he stepped down willingly? No, it's because of the pressure from all of you and the outrage from everybody who's following this case and from everybody who knows who Wexner really is. So that's phase one, and it's still accomplished. Sometimes you got to get to where you're going taking a detour, and that's just what happened here with Sycamore backing out. But at the end of the day, the end result is still what we were hoping for, and Les Wexner will not be involved with Victoria's Secret or L Brands at all moving forward in the future. And that's, again, phase one, right? A great result. But is that enough? Of course it's not. Les Wexner played such a role within Jeffrey Epstein's organization that he needs to be looked at very critically, and he needs to be looked at under a powerful, powerful microscope, because nobody is going to convince me that there aren't all sorts of ties there that are easy to follow for the investigators. I mean, if we're putting the pieces together here on the podcast, how can the prosecutors not be doing the same thing? So Wexner definitely needs to be looked at under a very powerful microscope, and it's apparent to anybody who's paying attention that the reason that hasn't occurred is because Wexner is so powerful, and the legacy media and the prosecutors fear reprisal from Wexner and his associates if they dig too deep. And until they prove differently, that is exactly where I'm at with Wexner and the legacy media handling him with kid gloves. As far as the stock price and Victoria's Secret moving forward, man, if I owned stock in Victoria's Secret, I would have, the second there was the bounce after the so-called purchase by Sycamore, I would have sold and got out, because there's zero chance that this stock ever bounces back, in my opinion. And I don't see how they can even survive as a brand. I would not be shocked if Victoria's Secret doesn't end up as some sort of Walmart brand in the future moving forward. That is my prediction for the once powerful Victoria's Secret. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All right, folks, we'll do it all again tomorrow.